Evening everyone, Mike the Vapor here again. Going to do another review for this evening, which some of you may know I went on a bit of a buy-in spree the other day when I got back from holiday. Had a bit of cash left over, so I thought, why not? We'll go buy myself some presents. So tonight we're going to do a review on the Big Dripper, which is here on my IPv2S. Now this is the first iteration of it. The V2, as far as I'm aware, comes with a plastic section on the tank, which means you can obviously view how much liquid's left in there. I kind of wish I got that one, if I'm honest, but that's just a small thing. Bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to grab the box that it comes in. So this here is the box. It doesn't tell me what clone it is or anything like that, so I can't actually recommend it, but I'll show you what comes in the box. Obviously we get the actual atomizer, we get a sheet of cotton, which feels okay. It has kind of weird like pin sort of things in it. It smells a bit funny, so that's getting chucked out. You get 2 of these coils built up, which are actually pretty good coils if you look at them. For pre-made coils, they're not too bad. I think it's about 0.5 mil Kanthal. Doesn't actually tell us what it is, but I popped it into an ATI and it came in about 0.4 ohms. 2 of them, if you're running that, it's a pretty low build that they're going to give you. You get various little O-rings left, and you get an Allen key. And that's everything in the box, and then obviously you get the actual atomizer as well. So it comes alright packaged. It just gets put in the cupboard anyway. But anyway, here we go, onto the good thing. So what you actually receive with it is just the body in the tank. You don't get the drip tip. This is my Plumbvale drip tip on here. So we'll pull that off and we'll show you the build. So you can see in there we have dual coil, 3-post design, really big holes on the post, and then grub screws on the top. You've got 2 airflow slots on either side. However, you can actually only use one of them at a time because of the way that the base is set up, but I think it's just so that if you prefer on the left or the right or whatever, it doesn't really matter too much about when you're building it up. This build that I've got in here is 0.4 ohm, and building it up was alright, yeah, wasn't too bad. If you're using thinner gauge Kanthal, it's a little bit more fiddly because you've basically got to build it above this lip, wick it up, and then push it down. And as you know, with thinner wire, when you push it, it bends, it crushes it a little bit, it kind of loses its shape. But this is 0.5 here, so it wasn't too bad. You just push it down, it keeps its shape, it's really not too bad. And then you push it down so that you can see the coil through the air holes, as you can see there. What I've done is I've run a single piece of cotton all around it. It seems to be working pretty good. So this is my IPv2S. I've upgraded it to 70 watts, and I'll just give it a quick fire and show you how it burns. So a lot of vapor coming off that, as you can see. You then have this section which sits on top, and the way this works is obviously your chimney runs right through for when you're vaping, and then you've got your air holes, and that's pretty much just a standard top for the base that you'd normally get. This section in the middle here, however, is your tank section. So the way it works, you can't see it, but there's a small hole inside here, and then when you press the drip tip, it squeezes liquid out. You really can't see it here because it's too dark, and the black one doesn't help. But yeah, there's a small hole. Yeah, there it is. There's a small hole in there so that when you push it, it pumps liquid through the little hole and drips onto your coils. The way it works is there's a spring inside, screw it all nice and neat together, and then this middle section here is kind of floating, but it's got an O-ring that keeps it in. So as you push it down, the pressure obviously forces the liquid out of the hole, and then the spring returns this back up to normal. I wasn't quite sure how it was going to work, whether or not it was going to be like it'd leak a lot out of that hole, or if you push it tiny little drip had come out or anything like that. But I'm actually really quite happy with the way it works. It surprised me how much liquid it puts out onto the coils, and this is one that I made up myself. I think I made this about 70% VG. So it's pretty thick liquid, and it comes through quite nice. You maybe need to pump it twice when you're starting to get a dry hit. But I was also kind of expecting it to pump out and then just stick to. Oh, here we go. It's dripping there now. Kind of expecting it to just like stick to the walls of the side and not actually reach the coils. However, when you look at it, it sits that far down that there's really not far for it to drip in. So if it was set like this, it'd take an age for it to get. Oh, sorry, you can't see that. If it was sat like this, it'd take an age for it to get down. But because it really sits down flush, there's not much room for it to actually drip down. So it just goes straight onto the coil, which is ace. The hole is off-centered slightly, but by me running a single piece of cotton, it doesn't really make too much of a difference because it soaks in and it just spreads out. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the design, if I'm honest with you. I think it's quite good. The only gripe I've got with this clone is the O-rings are really not very tight. I mean, I'm hardly using any force there, and it's just coming off. I mean, the fact that it's a dripper, the liquid's probably got onto the O-rings a little bit, but I've got loads of O-rings knocking around, and I just need to change them over because it's a standard size. There'll be some out there that I can get a bit of a tighter fit. So the build is relatively easy, as long as you're using a decent gauge wire. It's got to be quite thick. And another thing that's quite cool about it is when mine arrived, the two negative posts weren't quite aligned properly. The holes in them weren't facing the same direction. So imagine this is your positive post, then you've got your two negative posts here. The holes were kind of pointed like this, but on the base you have two screws, and all you do is you just undo that screw a touch, put something through it to straighten it up, and then tighten them back down, and we're all good to go. The positive post, it looks to me like it's copper. Never know though, it could just be copper coloured, but it's not adjustable. However, I've not had any issues with it. I've got a floating pin on the IPV. Your majority of mechs now you can nip them up at the bottom and stuff like that. So I've really not had any issues with connection or firing or anything like that at all. The Allen key screws are good. They're better than my Vertex ones. The middle one on the Vertex has kind of lost a bit of, I don't know, it's a bit loose and it's a weird size. It's like 0.151 or something like that. So when I put a 0.15 in it, it just doesn't quite click, doesn't quite get it. Whereas with these, are really good. They're really tight. You can really get them down and stuff like that. So yeah, I was happy with it. I have noticed that the design could have been made a little bit better without having such high walls on this, because I, just out of curiosity, popped this on my Vertex and it fits perfectly. Now the base of the Vertex, as some of you will know, some of you won't, it's you basically bring the coil down and there's no wall. You put a shim over the top of it, which has got your airflow, but with this it doesn't really matter because you've got the airflow on this section. So they really could have shaved that right down and had it flat to the deck, and then you just pop it over the top. They probably would have needed to have adjusted this slightly, but yeah, it'd be a nice thing to see, because it just make it a little bit easier for builds that are slightly more fiddly. If you're doing something which is a bit more of a advanced build or whatever, or something with thinner wire, you could get a little bit better builds on there, if you ask me. I'll show you how it vapes. I've got a couple of little gripes, and I'll tell you what they are in a second. But I'll show you how it vapes first. I'm going to take a step back because this is at 70 watts. So I need a little bit of liquid. Pump once, pump twice, and then we'll give it a second to just do its thing. So, does it vape like a tank? Does it vape like a dripper? It vapes just like a dripper. Really, really impressed. You get a nice warm vape. I've got a bit of menthol going on in this, so it's a bit cooler for me. But it's a nice warm vape. I was kind of thinking that the distance between the deck and the drip tip being surrounded by liquid would cool the vape a little bit like it does with my Rose, but for some reason it doesn't. It must be made of something that just, I don't know, keeps the heat, something like that. The drip tips, oh Christ, so there you go, see, it just pulls off really easy, but that's quite easily fixed. Drip tips fit really well. The only downside I've got with putting a drip tip on is if it's a tight drip tip and you push it on, you end up squeezing liquid all over your hand. But it's not such a big deal, just maybe turn it upside down and give it a little twist, don't worry. All of my drip tips fit on it. The nice fitment on there, and it's quite a tight fit, which is nice because there's nothing worse than a drip tip coming off in your mouth, or like I've got a couple of the 2 puffs ones that are hybrid ones, and the top section popping off and just being a pain in the ass. But again, that's just down to O-rings. The gripes that I've got with it, the black one, it's very difficult to see how much liquid you've actually got in there. When you flip it upside down, you fill it up to where the chimney section ends and where it would meet when you put the bottom section on. And it's really hard to see how much liquid you've actually got in there. Not a huge deal because they've now released the V2, which has got the plastic window, and if you got a silver one, it'd probably be a little bit easier. Second gripe is the O-rings. But other than, and the third gripe would probably be the way that they've slightly designed the deck. But overall, it's a very, very good dripper. And the fact that it holds nearly 5 ml of liquid is ace, because I've only recently started getting into dripping a bit more because I've got this high wattage device. And I was trying to drip while driving the other day, and it was just a pain in the arse. But this takes that all away, and it still gives you the same quality of flavour and vapour that you'd get from a dripper, but without having to faff around all the time with it. So I'm really, really happy with it. Really happy. I've gone through about 2 or 3 tanks in it now, and every single one of them I've enjoyed. Same build, but all the flavours were nice. All of them vape well. None of them have been too thick to get through the hole. I was vaping a 80-20, I think it was, the other day. Fine, no issues whatsoever. Straight through, tasted phenomenal. Great clouds, and yeah, it's really, really good. But my advice would be get the silver one if you're going to get the V1. Get the V2 if you're just open to buying them, and just make sure you're going to use a thicker gauge wire, because pushing it down into that recessed deck is going to wreck your coils. You're going to spend all this time making them nice and neat, no hot spots, this, that and the other. You put your cotton in, wick it up, push it down, it's going to render. But with your thicker wire, it's alright, it's great. Yeah, it's really good, really quite happy with it. It would have been nice to have an adjustable 510, but I don't think it really matters too much now, because most mods have got some form of adjustment on them. But yeah, the big dripper, very, very happy with it. Been wanting one for a while, and I'm pleased to say it did what it was supposed to do. Right, I'm going to leave it there, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye-bye.